Hello, book lovers, and welcome to Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Perkins, and today I'm talking to author Erin Thornton. Erin is the author of Dangerous After Dark, a crime fiction romantic suspense novel. Hi, Erin. First of all, welcome and thank you for coming on Book Talk Radio Club.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. Dangerous After Dark is your debut novel. Tell us a little bit about it, without, of course, giving too much away.
Of course. Well, the heroine, Grace, she was the victim of an attack while she was in college. And she survived because her best friend and roommate came in and spooked the attacker. 5 years later, though, she discovered that those past 5 years had actually been a gift. And she now has a new outlook on life, but she doesn't quite know how to get her life back right where she wants it, or exactly how to get there.
Right.
And Patrick, he's our hero, who is absolutely dreamy, by the way, and I had an awful lot of fun with adjectives describing him in Grace's brain. He's a detective, and he and his partner tend to pull cold cases, and he pulls Grace's case and finds out that she is actually one of a string of victims, but she was the only one who wasn't killed.
Right.
And soon after, Grace's attacker comes back into play, and he's stalking her.
Ooh.
They have to figure out how to free Grace, but put this guy away for good before he comes back to claim what he truly believes is his, Grace.
Yikes.
And Grace has a decision to make. She can save herself or save her friends who've honestly become her family.
Right. So is your main character Grace modelled on anyone you know that has been through her experience?
Well, without getting too personal,
Of course.
this wasn't written with me as the heroine, but I'm a firm believer in write what you know.
Yes.
And honestly, my husband thought I was writing an autobiography when I told him I was writing a book. And I had to make it extremely clear that this is fiction. He's not a reader, and so he'll never actually read a page of my books.
Right.
But he does hear snippets occasionally, and I do bounce ideas off of him so that I make my characters more realistic.
Right. Okay. One of your reviewers has said not for the faint of heart. I mean, without going into too much detail, as I'm definitely one faint-hearted interviewer, how difficult was it for you to write the violent scenes?
Well, they do get fairly graphic towards the climax of the book. I believe that the reason that was stated not for the faint of heart was because the characters are created in a way that you instantly fall in love with them.
Right.
And because the characters they become part of you.
Right.
And by the time the really graphic part comes along, you're really invested, and you don't actually want them to go through that.
Sure.
Just like you would a family member or a close friend, you don't want anybody to experience that. So when the violence, while it was necessary in order to create the scene, it was really emotional for me because I actually felt what they were feeling.
Oof. Well, that's good, right? That's a good sign. That's a sign of good writing, Erin.
Thank you. But that said, I did hate the attacker by the time it all came around, and I had my own ideas as to what exactly should happen to him. Unfortunately, I'm not a writer who feels like I write my own opinions into or feelings into the story. I truly feel that my characters are telling me their stories.
Right. Yeah, I hear this a lot. I hear this quite a lot from authors because I write non-fiction. So it's interesting to hear that, definitely.
Right. And so, I mean, I know that makes me sound like I'm crazy, that my characters are talking to me in my head.
Not at all. Not at all. They become entities. They become people.
Exactly. So while I felt like I had my own ideas as to what should happen, they told me and the story played out the way they lived it.
Fear becomes all-consuming. I know how easy it is to be consumed by fear and how it affects every part of one's life. And fear is also catching. Did you find that as you were writing Grace's attack scene, that you actually felt the fear yourself?
Well, like I said, the characters are real to me.
Yeah.
So since they share their stories with me and I write them down, just like I would with my children, I never want my kids to go through bad things, and
Sure.
I feel for them and I sympathize with them. And so after writing a particularly horrible, violent, or graphic scene, I usually have to take a break from writing.
Yes.
it's like it stops my flow, and I can't write anything else until I clear that emotional blockage.
Right. Interesting. Another one of your reviewers, excuse me, says, and I quote, amazing way to show transformation from victim to survivor. The man who may rescue Grace both physically and emotionally is Patrick, the detective who is on her case. As women, do you think we need to be rescued by someone else? I mean, personally, I always feel it's up to each and every one of us to be our own rescuer. What's your thoughts?
That particular review made me smile as soon as I read it. It just spoke to my heart. I truly believe that we prepare ourselves, and we have to be open to rescue. In a sense that I feel that even if someone else is doing that physical work, you have to do the emotional work. You have to be that emotional side, that you have to be open to the idea of rescue.
Yes.
So you see that in the story that Grace actually is training, and she's a religious she works out religiously, and she has been formally trained in self-defense. She takes kickboxing classes, and actually that kind of was her comfort zone. So she was a religious kickboxer and trained all the time, and never wanting herself to be in the same situation again. So she was physically preparing herself, but she may not necessarily be I guess Patrick is there just to support her.
Right.
He's not taking away her independence or saying that she isn't strong enough.
Right. So who is your author hero in your genre? Did their writing inspire you as you wrote Dangerous After Dark?
Well, I guess I read so many genres and my mood honestly dictates my reading habit.
Right.
So I would say that the closest genre that I read regularly is supernatural suspense.
Oh, right.
Right. And so I've actually fallen in love with Amy Bartol, and my latest obsession is R.N. Hadley. And they might not be the biggest names that you've heard of, but I don't find my books by who has the biggest following.
Right.
I'm a character person, obviously. I write my characters in a way that people fall in love with them. I fall in love with my characters.
Right.
And so if I can't relate to a character in some way within that description of a book or a series, I'm probably not ever going to read it. And so I'm not sure how much they actually inspired my individual writing, because I pull inspiration from everywhere.
Right.
I tell people all the time that you have to watch what you say around me, because it might end up in a book.
Yes, be careful. You might end up being killed off if you annoy me.
Right, exactly. I have been known to say, hey, are there some names of people that you don't really care for that I could add in here?
Power.
But I also have a notes page where I keep my, I guess you could say, darker scenes. And they come to me at odd times, and they might come to me while I'm reading. They might come to me while I'm laying in bed and can't fall asleep, or while I'm driving on the highway. If somebody random were to actually pick up my notes, I know they would probably be slightly disturbed.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Right.
For the past 13 years, you've been a mum first with 6 kids, and you say you felt like you'd lost your own identity. You no longer had a first name and was always someone's mum or your husband's wife, and it became very discouraging. I think most women feel like that at some point, whether it's 1 child or 6. Many mums that go out to work feel guilty at some point for enjoying their job and not being with their children. Did you, or do you sometimes feel the guilt when you make time for your writing, and if so, how do you deal with it?
Honestly, I do feel like my family suffers at times for my writing, but usually it's only when I'm in a last-minute push trying to finish the last little bit of a book, or I'm in the middle of a scene that I can't stop writing, and I might not clean the house as well in those times, or
Tut.
my husband might have to cook dinner a night or two. But, I mean, I do try to spend more time with them after that.
Sure.
And I have spent an entire evening writing, or much of a day on a weekend when my husband's home and can watch the kids. And I will say that I try not to lock myself away that often.
I understand that you love to make up stories for your kids at bedtime when they were younger. Do you see yourself writing children's books at all?
I have toyed with the idea, I have a few notes stashed here and there for maybe a rainy day, but I haven't really committed to that idea yet.
And where's your writing space? Where do you escape to?
I have 6 kids. Escape is not really the word I would use.
I can see you on your 100 acres climbing up a tree and staying up there and saying, leave me alone.
Right. I honestly, I do have a regular desk, but I don't use it at all. It's buried in my bedroom.
No,
But in order to not take that time away from my family, I have a lap desk, and I made it, and I love it, and it's bigger than a regular lap desk because I keep my notes, and I'll keep my laptop and everything, and I'm functioning. And it's usually right in the living room with my family, and I have learned to compartmentalize, and I can write while they're in here doing what they do. And it's just, I don't want to be closed off and hiding from them. But I'm not saying that I don't have a day where my kids are driving me completely mad. And my husband's home, and I go, I'm locking myself in my bedroom. And I take my desk and my laptop, and I go in there, and I sit and write. And those days I probably push out a lot more words than the days I'm sitting in the living room.
I can imagine. So tell me, first seller or the first positive review, what was the best moment for you?
Well, it was exciting to actually see my first sale because, hey, I sold a book. Woo, somebody cared. In those first days, it's really hard to know whether that's just your friends and family buying it because they know you.
Exactly.
And so, in all reality, the first positive review and every review since, it's really giddy time in our house. And with each one of those, there's a lot of jumping up and down and sometimes a lot of screeching and a lot of place-saving looks from my family who really aren't as excited about it as I am.
But it's a case of, oh my goodness, a stranger likes my book. They've bought my book and they like my book. Exactly.
Yeah. And to know that they're not necessarily in your direct circle. As much as I love my friends and
Absolutely.
I know that they post reviews, they're outside my circle and they picked it up and they read it and they related to it and they cared.
And you're a writer. There you go.
Exactly.
So what's next for Erin Thornton, book-wise?
Well, I actually have 2 books in the works right now. I never thought of myself as a simultaneous writer, like I could actually write 2 books at once. I know my brain works that way, and my husband thinks I'm crazy. But I have Dangerous Calculations, which is book 2 of the Dangerous series that goes along with this one. They're both standalones, so you can read them separately and it won't affect you.
Right.
I'm in the last stages of writing on that, and I'm hoping to have it released to beta readers actually next week to potentially release maybe early October.
Fantastic.
And then I've also got a romantic comedy in the works, and I'm super excited about it because it was just a fun idea that I thought, hey, wouldn't it be just a funny book? And it's called Disaster in Love.
Uh-huh.
So once those are released, I'm hoping that I can work on audiobooks.
Right.
That's an actual pet project of mine, and it's probably going to take a little bit longer because I'm doing it on my own. And I have a rambunctious 3-year-old who has decided naps are overrated.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to find time for that.
So where can Book Talk Radio Club listeners purchase Dangerous After Dark?
Well, today is actually the last day on Kindle Unlimited for a little bit, but it's still available on Amazon for paperback and ebook, and Creative Space also has the paperback available as well. And since it's coming off of Kindle Unlimited, I'll be re-releasing to Kobo, Nook, and hopefully iBook and Google Play soon.
Fabulous. Thank you. That was absolutely fascinating, Erin. Please come back on Book Talk Radio Club when you've finished Dangerous Calculations. And I'd love to chat with you, hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future. And thank you, everyone, for listening to Book Talk Radio Club. Bye, Erin.
Bye.
Bye.